Well, hello there, paradigm shifters. Welcome to Transformation Tuesday. I love it. I love it. I love it. Paradigm shifters, we are a growing global community dedicated to shift and uplift the planet. I love it. And when I first came up with that, it was like, the planet? Who are you? I'm like, well, yeah, why not? Why not? And we've been doing this since March of 2020. And my name is Judy Matejcek, and I'm a life mastery consultant. And I train people to be champions in their lives and in the lives of all those who they touch every day. So welcome. We are in the month of July, and our topic for this month has been rainbow connections. Learning to love and listen to all generations and people. And so we've had different guest speakers on, and today for this Transformation Tuesday, we have my meditation friend, Mansoor here. Yes, I meditate. Or an attempt to, most days. But this is my friend Mansoor I met in meditation, and he has maybe a different perspective on this learning to love all generations and people than possibly, well, for me. And so Mansoor is a middle-aged guy trying his darndest. And I love what you said, with mixed success. Keep coming back, right? And to be grateful, loving, and helpful each day. So Mansoor was born in the United States to parents who immigrated from India. He currently lives in Austin. Most of his day-to-day life revolves around the roles of husband, father, son, and high school teacher. So with that, come on in here, Mansoor. Tell us a little bit about yourself and possibly your perspective that you see with these connections. Come on in.
All right. Hello, everybody. And hello, Judy. And thank you for the invitation here. I'm not going to share much more about myself right now beyond the introduction. I think some more will come out later. So let me jump right into perspectives. And so with working with other generations, I've got two angles on this. And one is the older generation. My parents just moved to Austin 2 years ago, and it's a real kind of reignition with rocket fuel, I would say, of our relationship because of the gift of proximity. Really, how often would we see each other? It went from once every 2 months to every day if possible. And so that's been a wonderful transformation. And so then the other perspective that I suppose I could discuss is with the young people that I work with. I've been working mostly in high school, a few years in middle school, I don't know, 20-ish years, to that point where you stop. You have to think back and calculate. But also, I really want to approach this with a sense of humility. I got invited onto this, but I'm not in any way at all an expert. I have my experience and I have my insights based on the path that I've led, but I don't feel like I have answers and deep wisdom other than that which I've picked up from other people such as yourself. So I'd love to hear your perspective too. So I'm gonna bat the ball back to your court and see what you have to say.
Oh, a survey. Could have bat you. What I would love to know is, you said something about American born with an Indian heart.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? What is an Indian heart?
Right. Right. That's a great question. I was raised in an Indian household. You know, my parents enjoyed Indian music. We ate a lot of Indian food, and India is a big complex place. It was really the roots of my family are in a state called Gujarat, but my mom was born and raised on the east side rather than the west side of the country in Calcutta. But there's Indian culture, you know, that is infused in in my parents' blood and in their thinking, and of course, inevitably, that's passed on to kids. And so, a great example for that is a combination of a sense of, but well, I'll say it's a desire to care for my parents at this point in their lives more and more. And I shouldn't say care for them, really, it's an, I want to take advantage of this opportunity I have to pour love into their lives. I have an immense amount of appreciation, I mean, a real deep appreciation for the efforts that they made during my childhood that I was unaware of that time, like many young people are. And so this is a neat opportunity for me, and it's an honor to be able to be here as frequently as I am. I've gotten to know both of my parents better, and you know, decline is going to be inevitable over the next years, and life is going to get harder in a lot of ways for them. And I'm really glad I'm going to have a chance to be part of that and to give what I can. And I don't think that, by no means is that an exclusively Indian attitude or perspective, but from where I think it comes from within myself, there's a lot that does extend from this cultural, partially norm, but you know, it's also a cultural expectation. You know, there is an expectation and an obligation aspect to it, but I'm really comfortable with that. Very comfortable with that. So that's one example, and there are many other ways in parenting and treating other people that I've been influenced by my Indian background. And then there's the American side. You know, I grew up in the United States, and outside of my home, we had Indian friends and families, but we had plenty of American friends and family. And to be even more precise with my language, white Christian friends and family. You know, there are a lot of Americans who are immigrants who became Americans. So I'm talking about more of this individualistic American culture. And so here's a great example. A friend of mine talked about her son going off to college, and she said, he's going off and it's hard to let go, but this is what we're supposed to do as parents, like let our kids go and have them grow as individuals. And I thought, not necessarily. There's a guy from Saudi Arabia that stayed with us for 1 year, and his advice about my teenage son was he should not go off to college, Mansoor. I don't recommend it. Oh, why is that? Well, you don't know who he's going to get involved with. It's better that he stays at home, at least until he gets married. But even then, so in my head, there's this mix of often different perspectives, and it reminds me sometimes of like a cold front meeting a warm front, and in between, weather happens, and that it's a blessing and a challenge to have sometimes competing voices in my head between the two. And now I'd love to hear your perspective also, because you have your own dual cultural background.
Yes. And my curiosity is like having gone through those stages myself, because I'm of the generation of your parents.
Mhm.
And so I was just on the phone with my daughter who has a teenage son
Mhm.
and everything. And we laugh a lot because we laugh a lot because I think back then, and I'm saying back when I was, say, your age, not sure, and a parent, I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, we're just doing this thing.
Mhm.
And then listening to how other people are doing things and like, wait a minute, I'm going to choose not to do those things. And what her conversation has been um, is that she decided was she is in a goes out and oh well they're teenagers, oh we have to fight all the time, or there's a lot of like conflict fights.
Mhm.
And my daughter Julie says, I just decided, one, I'm not going to be in that conversation, and two, it doesn't have to be that way. I am choosing as the mom to have open conversations with my son, and they have this beautiful
Wow.
relationships.
Wow.
And her and so we laugh. I'm like, gosh, good on you, Julie. Where did you learn that? And she goes, well, not from you. And that's what the beauty of coming into this work
Mhm.
for me is, like, having taught
Yeah.
so many years. Mine actually had an ending. It was 17 years in the public school system. I would see different roles and ways of parenting, especially in those sticky
Mhm.
conversations,
Mhm.
and mostly keeping my mouth shut
Yeah.
because I was not in their role. At any rate, and so anyway, we've had many conversations. So yeah, now so here I want to hop into as a parent. It seems
Yeah.
like you are here, you've got your parents here,
Yeah.
and you've got your son. So how here's two questions that came up. How important is it for you to have your son with his grandparents and interwoven? How I'm
Sure.
saying, yeah,
Sure.
what's he
Well,
learning? What are
how
you hoping he
important
learns?
is it to me to have my son interwoven with my parents? It's a lovely thing to witness when they're interacting and are comfortable with each other and are deriving joy from one another's presence. Um, how important is it to me? I'd say it's very important, but I'm fortunate that I'm not in much of a position where I feel this desire to force to make it happen. We live close enough by, and he has enough opportunities to come by, often on his own. And you know what? He has a nice place over here. It's it's fun. It's fun oftentimes getting out to grandma and grandpa's house, to Dadima and Dadaji's house, I should say properly, because they're not your parents. And you have more flexibility to eat what you want, to be on screens, and just to chill, right? So and particularly the food, particularly the food and the drinks. And my parents derive joy from it also. And I appreciate that I appreciate that he gets time with people that are 2 generations above him. In India, there's much more intergenerational mixing. Um, and I don't want to paint that is better and this is worse. It's not black and white. There are pros and cons with all these situations. Um, but I think it's a nice thing for him to have that regular interaction with my parents, but were it not my parents, with people of their generation altogether. I don't know exactly what each side is getting from it, and it's not my place to analyze that so much. But I know that my parents derive joy from his presence, and I know that he derives joy from being the recipient of their love and affection. So it's a good thing,
There you go.
a really good thing. And I would say I think my parents are the how to say it. I think this has made a real lovely, meaningful difference in my parents' life on a day-to-day basis. It's moved that needle more than it has for my son. Um, I mean, you know how teenagers, yeah, grandparents are cool, grandparents are nice, but Salim's also into doing his own thing. Whereas they have their things going on, but boy, having a grandson come by often, it's just sweet. That's some sweet icing on the cake.
Ah, yes, you spoke. Yes, it certainly is. So I want to hop into the next part because we have you here
Mhm.
as a high school teacher.
Yeah.
And that is a position revered. I mean, bow to you, and I did not really feel that until once I left. And I say that I'm a former, people are like, well, like this is like,
Hmm.
well, I
Hmm.
never got that when I was in school. So as a high school teacher of many years, what I want to ask like some what questions. What, and this is really broad, what works, what doesn't work in
Hmm.
communicating
Yeah.
with your students? And
Yeah.
I've seen the inside of your classroom on Zoom, and you have such fascinating things on your wall. What is it that you know when you're clicking with that generation?
Hmm. Hmm.
And when do you know you are not?
Sure. All right. I have to give some context for my teaching classroom and school, because I want to make it really clear that that I'm blessed in terms of the place where I work. All right, and I work at a high school. It's for students where things didn't work out at their previous high school, any number of reasons, whether it's um, related to their behavior. It's often health reasons, could be depression, anxiety, could be family challenges, could be illness, other members of the family. I mean, you name it. And we have a lot of great kids at our school where if you have a school of 3,000 people, it's just not going to work out for a few of them because of life. So that's the nature of our school. Here are two key things. One, we have really small classes. My average class size is somewhere between 6 to 8, right? So unlike traditional large public high schools, right? In my school, I have opportunities that don't exist in a classroom of 20 plus students, right? Secondly, we run a self-paced program, right? Students come in every 2 to 4 weeks, right? They have a little interview, and then the school is described to them. Um, they're invited to join, and most students go with it. They come into my classroom and I say, here on your schedule, it shows you're in, say, second semester geometry. It looks like you already have the first semester credit. So we're going to start. And here's a guide of how long each section may take, but you go at your pace. And what this removes, Judy, it's amazing. What it removes is the fear of failure, right? If you can't get the work done from this list of 150 reasons that may lead to why you can't get the work done, it's okay. We can take time. We can take more time on it. Here's a huge thing, Judy. I have a student in Algebra 2, right, which results in some fairly advanced mathematical sophisticated work, right? And this is a student that if asked, when asked the question, 4 plus 3, without a calculator, her answer is 6. And 8 times 2 is 14. And it's an unfortunate phenomenon that I've been a part of as well, where really students should fail a math class, but you pass them because they showed up and they made some effort. And I was at one school where I was told there's a floor on the percentage of students that you should fail. It's not on paper, but you don't want to go above 40%. And it's when I told my department chair, like, I think about 70% of my kids shouldn't pass. So imagine the student being in the other classes where day by day, one lesson after another, everybody's moving on. It's ridiculous. I can stop, so good, and I can say, this algebra 2, it's okay. Let's just spend some weeks here together, and wherever you are, want to grow from there. And we'll just see where you get. What are you interested in? How about some exponents? want to get confident with those, like, oh yeah, those are kind of hard. Sounds interesting. And we can go with that. So the fear of failure is removed, deadlines are removed. I'm not lecturing at the front of the classroom with a captive forced audience, which I know we as teachers don't like one bit when we're in mandatory professional developments and someone's up there yakking. Got teachers in the back doing Sudoku. We're just like the kids, just quieter maybe. So, so I work in an environment that has enabled me to build connections with students that I couldn't do before. And for the first half of my career, when I was at the large high schools, I was a good teacher and I did my job fine, but I wasn't making amazing connections with many kids. It was a grind and it was tough. So kudos to the high school where I work at. That's plenty of context. And in that context, Judy, you can do amazing things, right? You know what I can do? I can sit down and say, hey, how's your morning? Oh, it was rough. Huh. You want to talk about it? And we can have a conversation for 15 minutes. So it's not so much, I think, what I do at this point. It's what our school enables to happen in classrooms, which is students often say, this is the first school where the teachers, I really felt that they cared for me. Right? And I know their previous teachers cared, but the structure of the program made it hard for that care to flow. And our school creates an environment where that care can really, really flow. So it's a beautiful thing.
Wow, that is so, I'm taking
Beautiful
notes
thing.
like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am just, the whole world's our classroom once we
Yeah.
leave, the curriculum. Well, I say the content of your life is the curriculum of your
Mm-hmm.
evolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted everybody to take some notes here. Ding, ding, ding. And what you said is gold nugget. Wherever you are, you grow from there.
Mm-hmm. Right? And it's funny, it's such a simple, wise concept, but we have a term for it in education, and I think it's a hilarious term. It's the zone of proximal development,
Tell me more
ZPD.
about that. I love that because I just heard that from actually Tony Robbins, the law of proximity.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yes,
Well,
I
the
mean, yeah.
zone.
And so what I teach now,
Mhm,
and I'm a teacher out here of universal
mhm,
laws, and that was when I'm zoning in on the
mhm.
law of proximity. In
Okay.
other words, where you are,
Mhm.
you're
You grow
learning.
from, right. That's right. No, it's so simple and profound. I on my students' paper, I draw a cloud and I say, here's a cloud, and this is your cloud of math knowledge. And what we're going to do that's like the cloud and the soil. We're going to grow from there. We're going to grow at the edges. There's no point in going way out here because it's a foreign language, and there's no point in spinning our wheels on the inside unless you want to, but that's sort of, we're not using our time as well as we could, so we're going to meet you where you're at and grow from there. And that is, of course, a lesson in a math classroom, but absolutely it's a lesson in life. And there's also this nice angle of acceptance, that this cloud in
Oh,
the soil, this is also where we are now, and we can't change that in any radical form, but we can work at the edges. We can be like an amoeba and just head off towards the light in one direction, see what
I
happens.
love that. I love that. And it's acceptance and
Mhm.
then grow. So my next question is,
Acceptance and
do
growth. Yeah.
you find that, and also you you said the word exponents, and that used to be a dirty word to so many people, that, oh, you're
Oh
talking
yeah.
math, you're
Oh yeah.
talking math, I'm not going to go it, blah blah. And then what one of the things in my curriculum or whatever it is, I'm not, this universal laws is, um, you really can have exponential growth, not just incremental, like one grade. Okay, you did this, next
Mm-hmm.
grade.
Mm-hmm.
There's this exponential growth where you appreciate where you are, acceptance of where you are, and be comfortable there.
Mhm.
And then the exponential growth happens. Have you seen that with students over your
That's
years?
that's a good question. Have I seen what
And
I
I'm
would?
not just talking about math. I
Oh,
mean,
sure,
in their, yeah,
absolutely.
go ahead. Yeah, yeah, go
Mhm.
ahead.
Have I seen what I would describe as exponential growth in students?
Or
Um,
yourself.
hmm. I don't know if I would describe it as such. What I have seen, what we see frequently at my school, I like to, I like, one thing I like to say about my school is, one thing that's cool is we can all be open um, about things not going necessarily how they quote unquote should have, right? Because that's how our students end up there. And at least in my classroom, this is a bit of my personality. I feel comfortable being open with my students about how things haven't gone the way I've wanted them to for me. And so we can talk about our faults as humans, right? Which is wonderful because of the acceptance and the growth piece that is embedded in the culture of my school. And we can share stories um, more often that aren't filtered through the social facade, the social filters that are so often at play for teenagers in high school and at play for teachers teaching those teenagers in high school.
Mhm.
So that said, what we have seen frequently is kids coming in really low, and then when they leave, they're often they write these essays, and with approval, they're read over the intercom. And I hear themes, and I hear often a theme that I describe as students saying, "I came in and I felt broken, and I'm leaving feeling rebuilt. I came in with a lack of confidence and uncertainty, and I'm leaving now with more comfort that I can manage what's to come because uncertainty remains, but I believe in myself more than I did when I started here." So we witnessed transformations. And I had a previous principal, she would often state in meetings, say, she would say, it's an honor to work with all of you because you're saving lives. You're saving lives here, figuratively and literally.
Wow.
What a great place to work, Judy.
Breathe into that. Yes, I love it. This, what a
I'm
well,
fascinated. I'm fascinated by this idea that I can't stress this. I owe it to my school environment that allows that somehow in its veins has created the capacity for these things to happen. And like I said, I attribute it to the small classes and the self-paced, and maybe that's all it is, but what an amazing environment,
and I'm gonna just throw in it's the culture that you're creating.
the culture.
It's the culture. And and then what whew, boy, what everybody here, you're gonna rewind this, and
Mhm,
I want you to focus in on those testimonies that the students wrote,
mhm.
because that, at least I would say for me when I was a teacher, those kept me going and wanting to keep coming back because that was a passion. So one other quick thing, and before we wrap this up, my daughter, who I was talking to a little, at the beginning of this, she went to an alternative high school because
Mhm.
her life was broken. She had witnessed the death of her father.
Oh,
And
mhm,
so she was,
mhm.
anyway, she was placed in this alternative high school named TLC.
Oh, I love it.
I know. And it was there she had the
Great
small
name.
classes, the teachers like you,
Mhm,
that and other students who they would openly talk about what was going on and this and that.
wow.
And that she is 39 now, the mother of the teenager, and I could trace her transformation back to those years when
Yeah.
she was in the loving care of
Mhm,
teachers and a
mhm,
culture.
mhm.
They weren't calling her broken.
Yeah.
They were taught, they were speaking to her whole self. And well, she is one heck of a mom now, which got her into her profession as an interpreter for the deaf.
Wow.
And so now she is taking that into a whatever broken, it doesn't see them as broken, but
Sure.
she is learning that culture. And so it's all about, I think, just to tie this whole interview up, is that it's
Mhm.
situation, love,
Mhm.
acceptance.
Yes.
And what a beautiful thing to be right in the middle of it. Yeah.
Acceptance and growth. I like how you summed up a piece of the culture at my school, but what a wonderful approach to the world, to ourselves, to the relationships in our lives, to um, to the challenging times that we face. Acceptance and growth.
So I have one other question before we go. And
Sure.
as a community, our community of paradigm shifters, what would you love to have us hold for you, energetically hold for you, for a vision for your life and for your future, as as a parent, teacher, son? What would you like to have us hold for you, Mansoor?
Hmm. That's a very sweet invitation. What would I like this
What would you
community?
love? What would
What
you
I'd
love?
love for this community to hold for me. I'm gonna turn the table slightly and say the following. Um, I think I'm in a good spot where if the community has capacity to hold, I would ask the community to whatever degree possible to take a look around their world and their life and um, and find someone that needs some help in any kind of way. Find someone that um, perhaps has less or is facing one of the many common challenges in life or an unusual challenge in life, and um, and make even the smallest gesture in that direction, whether it's sending a note or bringing some food over or giving some money or anything at all, but to just to step out and give to to someone that needs it far more than I do. Yeah, I'm showered with blessings and abundance. Um, and don't get me wrong, I often don't feel that way in my head, but I feel like I know it enough in my heart that when I'm back to grounding myself in that, it's one of the most right things that I feel. So thank you for the invitation from the community. But yeah, whatever capacity there is to hold and to give and to share, yeah, please let it flow. I'm in good shape.
Awesome. Well, let's create some energy here. I know, like you
Good.
rub your hands together and like, all right. I love that. I love that. We're going to spread this in globally. I love that word globally. Here you go.
Mm-hmm.
Here you go. All right. We give.
Yeah, I'm
As
out.
we give, we receive. Amen.
Give or receive. Thank
Thank
you,
you so
Judy. My
much.
my only regret is that I intended to ask you more questions and I did
Oh, I
not.
mean, I'm the interviewer here.
So maybe I'll start one of these and you'll be my first guest.
I'm on it. What we've given.
We'll see.
So thank you so much. And yeah, thank you. And yeah, dream big,
Yeah.
dream bold, accomplish brilliantly. Yeah,
Thank you.
there you go.
Thank you. This has been wonderful.
Amen.